When I was in college, I was broke with hella debt from different credit cards, so I decided to start an OnlyFans. I was very reluctant at first. Then I said, forget it. I look good enough to make money, so why not? The first day that I was on there, I made it free to subscribe to me so I could get followers quick and linked all my social medias through Instagram. My OnlyFans was on there also. My Instagram was public, so anyone could get it. I logged on and I started a live stream and a few people got on. Then it was just one person. I wore glasses and the guy told me that I was gorgeous and to take my glasses off, so I did. Then he sent me $10. I told him thank you. Then the message popped up on the screen. You have nice lips. Can you put on red lipstick if you have it? I said, of course. So I got up and I got my lipstick, sat down and I put my lipstick on. Then I was sent $25. I told him thank you. Then he asked, if I give you $100, will you do whatever I say for the next 15 minutes? I told him that I didn't think that it was worth it. I was about to log off when he said, no, not yet. What about 300? I gave the same answer. Then he simply put, 1,000 enough for you? I sat there and I thought about it. Then I said, yeah, I'll do it. Then I set an alarm for 15 minutes. The first thing he asked me to do was to blow him a kiss and smile, so I did. Then he told me to say that I love Adam, and I said it. At that point, I was thinking that this is pretty easy. Then he asked me, do I have a red dress? I said, yeah. He then asked me to put it on. So I put on the dress and he called me beautiful. Then the weirdest request popped up. It simply said, cry. I asked him what that meant, and he said he wants me to cry. So I sat there for a few seconds and I began to try and cry. He typed, no, none of that fake stuff. I want real tears and emotion. I told him that I don't know if I can do that. And then he said, well, no money then. I tried again and no luck. He then put $1,500 in the chat. Well, he typed. I said, okay, and I walked into my kitchen, opened the refrigerator door and put my hand inside and closed it as hard as I could. I walked back to my laptop and I began to cry. He put good girl in the chat and then he asked me, do I have scissors? I said, yeah, why? He typed, cut your hair. So I said, no. Then he typed $2,000 in the chat. I paused for a few seconds and I said, okay. I grabbed some scissors, sat back down, and then he typed, nah, actually, use a knife, not scissors. Again, I paused and I said, okay. I grabbed a knife, sat down, and began to cut my hair, and my ponytail was gone. He typed, you look good with short hair. Then he asked me to take my dress off, and I said no. Then he typed 2,500 in the chat, and luckily, my alarm went off, and I told him that his time is up. Then he typed, how about 15 more minutes for $6,000? I said no. Then he asked, well, do you want these to go public? And then I received 77 photos. I clicked on them, and they were from my iCloud. I asked how he had my photos, and he typed, if you don't do what I say for 15 more minutes, everyone that you know will see these photos. I told him, yeah, right, and I closed my laptop. And no lie, a few minutes later, I received over 50 text messages from family and friends that they saw my photos. My landlord told me not to worry about the rent and that he didn't know I was working with a dump truck back there, that I was thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. I don't even know what that means. And after that, honestly, I never went back on the OnlyFans. I went and got a real job, something safer. I became a stripper. But anyway, I changed my whole iCloud and everything. But that was the weirdest night of my life. As a 911 operator, I've heard some pretty strange and terrifying calls over my time, but there is one that still haunts me to this day. It happened about a year ago. It was a normal night shift for me, and I was answering calls as usual. I remember the clock on the wall ticking just past 1 a.m. when I received a call that sent chills down my spine. The voice on the other end of the line was a panicked and breathless voice. It was a woman, and she was whispering so softly that I had to strain to hear her. "Please, yeah, please," she said. "There's someone in my house." I immediately went into professional mode, trying to calm her down and get more information. First, I asked, "What's your address? Can you tell me where you are?" But the woman didn't seem to hear me. She kept whispering about someone being in her house and begging for help. "Ma'am, I understand that you're scared in this situation, but I need you to speak up a little bit. I can't help you if I don't know where you are." And then something strange happened. The woman stopped whispering and started to speak in a low, almost guttural voice that didn't sound human. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Was it a prank call or something? A joke being played by one of my co-workers, or maybe just some dumb kids? But as I listened, I realised that something was seriously wrong. The woman's voice had changed, and there was a strange noise in the background that sounded like growling. I quickly dispatched the police unit to the address. By this time, I was able to track the call and where it was coming from, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. I could hear the woman on the line still whispering in that strange voice, and I felt like I was losing my mind. Minutes later, the police arrived at the address, and I listened in on the radio transmission, waiting for any news or an update. But what I heard made me feel even more unnerved. The officers had found the woman, but she was dead. Her body was lying on the floor, and there were signs of a struggle. I felt sick to my stomach, wondering how I'd missed the signs, that this was a real emergency. Was there something I could have done to save her? As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the woman had been attacked by something or someone, and they were never caught. The autopsy revealed a strange mark on her body that couldn't be pinned down to one single cause. I couldn't sleep for days after that call. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear the woman's voice whispering in that low and guttural tone. It started to feel like I was losing my mind, like the trauma of that call had broken something inside of me. It took months of therapy and counselling before I was even able to return to work, and even then, I was never quite the same. I became hypervigilant, always listening for that strange noise or that voice. To this day, I still don't know what happened to that woman, or who or what was responsible for her death. But that call will stay with me for the rest of my life.
I played the Ouija board for the first time when I was 10, in the woods, with my friend. And it was her grandma's old board, which she had made herself. She was a witch, might I add. So yeah, we kind of screwed ourselves from the beginning. But we used it in the woods. And it was where this guy had killed his daughter, who was our friend, and we really wanted to contact her. At first I thought my friend was just playing around with me, so I made her stop touching the board, and when she did, I played alone. As I was playing alone, I got a voice in my head telling me to put my blood on the board. So I did, and after that, the board piece went flying, and my friend tried to burn the board, but I told her not to. She did, but it wouldn't burn, so now I have the board to this day in a storage unit. Ever since that day, the little girl has been following me, and I still see her, but I know it's something darker than a little girl. She's proved that to me, and it still terrifies me and my boyfriend. Even my boyfriend has seen her. A few-ish years ago, my boyfriend, now husband, and I found a Ouija board at a garage sale for $1. The man told my boyfriend, "This will change your life." A couple of weeks later, we decided to use it. We had a few friends over, lit some candles, and tried to get serious. There was giggling and general silliness. We finally calmed down and tried using the board with different pairs of people. Our first encounter, I was with my boyfriend and the planchette was moving very slowly. It said it was a 5-year-old girl. Not much came from the conversation. The next spirit contacted, the planchette moved very quickly and we asked its name. It said H-A-G. It spelled hag. Then we asked how old it was, and it said 5,000 years. We left the conversation because of how sick it made us feel. Next, I paired with my boyfriend's best friend. We hadn't known each other long. The spirit we encountered moved slowly, but flowed easily. It said Grandpa Dick. I had a grandpa named Richard who passed away a few years before. We asked what religion I grew up, and it said Mormon. We asked why I don't talk to my dad, and it said alcohol. This was crazy. I really was talking to my grandpa. I was crying and beside myself because it was just so surreal. We said goodbye. The next day I was alone and had a strong urge to use the board to contact my grandpa again. I then decided to look up Ouija boards before I did that. Not only did I learn that you should never use them alone because you close the circuit and that's an easy way to become possessed, I also learned that bad spirits will pretend to be ones that love you to get to you. I'm convinced whatever hag was trying to pretend to be my grandpa, and I've never used a Ouija board since. A few years back, I rented an apartment from a friend of mine. He had recently bought it and had it completely renovated. He put it up for sale,
but couldn't find a buyer, so I offered to rent it in the meantime. After moving in, I realised that there was something wrong with the lady next door. She was about 45, but looked much older. She would sit up all night listening to Christian radio shows and talking loudly to someone. It got to the point where I couldn't sleep, so I went over to her place and asked her to keep it down. She opened the door and I got a quick peek inside. Her walls all had crosses painted on them in different colours, and words like Jesus and angels scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black, letting no light in at all. It was damp, yellow-stained 50-year-old carpets, dog shit and cockroaches everywhere. No dog though. I asked her to please keep it down. She just looked at me and shut the door. Then she turned up the radio even louder. The next night, I had my girlfriend staying over. I wake up in the middle of the night and see a shadow of a person next to my bed looking at us sleeping. I think I'm hallucinating, as I usually do in the dark when I'm sleepy. But then the shadow starts talking, and it's my neighbour, and she's holding something in her hand. She broke in during the night, and who knows how long she was stood there for.
You should lock your door at night,
she says, and walks out. The next morning, I hear someone making strange noises below my bedroom window. It's my neighbour talking to herself again, but in tongue. She has a plastic bag in her hand, with her dead, rotting dog inside. It's hot as hell outside, and I can smell the death from the bag. At this point, I'm scared shitless. She's obviously very insane. I go upstairs and knock on another person's door and ask what the hell is going on. This guy is as scared as me. Apparently, she broke into his apartment one evening as well, while he was watching TV with his kids. He got up from the couch to get a snack, only to find her behind the couch staring at him, holding a power drill. Now I know what was in her hand. At this stage, I'm basically pooping myself. I call the cops, and they know all about her already. Apparently, she's a violent schizophrenic, and she hasn't taken her meds, but they can't force her or enter her apartment without her permission because she owns the place. The only thing that they can do is get her when she goes outside. So I sit up for the next 2 days, waiting for her to run out her cigarettes. When I hear her leave at 2 a.m. to go across the road to the 7-Eleven, I call the cops. They have 3 cars and a special van over in less than 2 minutes. They restrain her, throw her in the van, and drive off to some institution, and in less than a minute it was like she was never there. I never see her again, but I'm still having nightmares about her looking at me in my sleep.